Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome to Lady Khadija radiallahu anha online college. Live lesson today, A-level maths, year 2 pure maths. And today's topic is partial fractions. We're going to start in a few seconds, inshallah. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Peace be with you and the mercy of God. Today's A-level maths live lesson continues on the series we're doing on partial fractions. We're going through the Pearson edXL Year 2 Pure Maths book. Highly recommended that you get it. Working through Chapter 1 and partial fractions, but this time there's just a little bit of a remainder added on. So what we've seen before is that sometimes what we've been trying to do before is take a fraction that's got 2 or 3 things being multiplied at the bottom and just splitting that. The first fraction will have the first thing, the a, and we know we're going to have a second fraction with the second thing. But what we're going to get today is that there's going to be a bit of a remainder left over, which is something that we're just going to have to deal with. In the questions of this type, you're normally told that there is that kind of remainder. So let's take a look. We are working through example 14. So the first fraction is coming up. This is the fraction that we have to split. So here's the top. The top doesn't really help us figure out how many pieces to split it into. It's the bottom, the denominator, that you need to be looking carefully at. So let's have a look at the denominator. We've got x minus 1, one factor, and x minus 2, the second factor. So that should tell us straight away that this fraction we can split into 2 fractions. But the question helps us, and it says that this fraction can be split, but you're going to get something that's not a fraction first, and then you're going to get your fractions. So our job is to figure out the missing bits. The a, that's not in a fraction, the b that is at the top of the second fraction, and the c, which is at the top of the third term, which is the second fraction. So you can tell from here, this is nothing new from what we've done. We saw the denominator is made of 2 parts, so we've got our 2 fractions, which correspond to those 2 parts, the x minus 1 and the x minus 2. But the question's telling us there's going to be a remainder. So we're going to start as normal. It's really the same technique. We're going to think, okay, we need a common denominator. We need to make sure the denominator is the same on all 3 parts. So how can we have it the same on 3 parts when there's only 2 fractions? Well, it's quite easy to make this one a fraction by putting it over 1. So we can have a over 1. Now that's a fraction like the others. So what do we need on that first fraction at the bottom? To make it the same, we're going to need an x minus 1, and we're going to need an x minus 2. So let's get that on. Let's extend the line. And now the brackets come. You've got x minus 1, x minus 2 to join that denominator. But whatever we do to the bottom, we're going to have to do to the top, and that comes on the top as well. And I'm really going to run out of space, so I'm just going to bring that down. And now we're looking at the second fraction. We've got an x minus 1 on the bottom. We need, the 1 doesn't really matter, but we do need an x minus 2. So we're going to have to bring that in to join what's already there. So let's extend the fraction and let's times by x minus 2 on the bottom and x minus 2 on the top then. And then finally the third fraction, what's there? What do we need to add to make it the same as the others? We've got x minus 2, but we really need an x minus 1, so that can join. And then when you're multiplying, order doesn't matter, so we can have that second, that's fine. But we do need it on the top. Okay, great. And now to make things a lot easier, as long as you're sure that all the denominators are the same for every fraction, then we can cancel out all the denominators. Now we are going to need still a bit of space, but we can cancel out a lot. So now comes the next bit. Can anyone remember from previous lessons what comes next? We've got the denominators the same, we've cancelled out, and now what do we do? Type it into the chat window if you think you remember. Just tidy this up, bring it closer. Okay, I'll check in a second. That should give you enough time to think about it. Okay, what do we do next? Okay, nothing too hard. We're just going to do a bit of substitution. We're going to choose the easiest possible substitution to try and make our life easy. If we choose something that makes one of these brackets a 0, then that will mean less to work out. So let's go with 1, x is 1, so that the x minus 1 bracket becomes 0. So we know that that's going to become 0. This is going to become 0. So what I'm left with is the b times x minus 2. That's 1 minus 2. And that's going to be minus 1. So minus b on this side. And on this side, we've got 3 times 1 squared. Take away 3. Take away 2. So that's 3. Take away 3 is nothing. Take away 2, which is minus 2. So now minus 2 is minus b. I don't need the minuses. They can cancel out. So b is equal to 2. Just write that in the corner here. Okay, what else can I substitute? I try x is 1, worked out really nicely, but it's not going to give us everything. We're going to have to try a couple of different numbers. Let's go with 2. So let's go with x is equal to 2. And you tell me what's going to happen. What are we going to be left with on each side? Firstly, let's do it in order. Let's do the left-hand side first. 3 times 2 squared. Take away 3 times 2. Take away 2. What are we going to get? Okay, we're going to do 3 times 4. That's 12. Take away 6. And then take away 2. So that becomes 4. And with the x being 2, this bracket will become 0. So that makes the whole thing 0. This will become 0. We're just left with c times 2 minus 1. That's just c. So now we've got our c as well, which is 4. Only the a left to get. But we can't go with 2. We can't go with x is 1 either. Let me just take one of those lines off. So think about the next value for x. Okay, we can go with any value you like, but you just want to choose an easy one. Remember, it's an identity. It has to work for this side is identical to this side. It's got to give you the both sides have to give you the same number in the end, and it has to work for every value that you put in there for x. So it'll work for every value. You just need to choose an easy one. So let's go with x is 0. So that becomes 3 times 0. Take away 3 times 0, take away 2, that's just minus 2. And here I'm going to have minus 1, minus 2. So that's going to be 2, 2a. Can you work the next one out? It's going to be minus 2b. And then finally, the last one, that's going to be minus c. A plus and minus can just become a minus. And remember, I know b and c. b is 2. So that means 2 times b would be 4. So that's a minus 4. C here is 4 from our work earlier. So that I can, instead of putting minus c, I can put minus 4. Let's tidy that up. We've got minus 2 is equal to 2a minus 4 minus 4. Well, that becomes minus 8. I can take the minus 8 across to the other side as a plus 8. Minus 2 plus 8 is 6. 2 times a has to make 6, so a has to be 3. Very tempting at this point to stop thinking that you've done the question, but the question was to get the original fraction split into parts, into partial fractions. So let's come back to that. So what did our fraction look like? It had 3x minus 3x squared minus 3x minus 2 on the top. On the bottom was x minus 1, x minus 2. And the question gave us some guidance. It told us that there's going to be a non-fraction plus your first fraction will have b on the top and then x minus 1 on the bottom. And then the next part will be c on the top, x minus 2 on the bottom. So if you can just think of all that work we've done, how do we then finish it off? Any ideas? Please write it in the chat message. Okay, it's simply to replace a, b, and c with our answers. So a is 3, so we can take that away and put in 3. B is 2, so that can go here. And then let's put a 2 here before I forget what it is. And then c we said is 4. So that can go, instead of the c, we can just put 4. So there you go. We've got our fractions split into partial fractions, and there's the remainder there. Okay, I hope you followed that. Please practice the questions from the book, or get any questions you like from anywhere to practice. See you next week, inshallah, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m.